Good morning. I'm Bunny Hodis. My pronouns are she and her, and I have the honor of being your president of your board of trustees this year. Welcome to our annual meeting for 2023. Thank you for all the roomies and zoomies for being here. The first thing we're going to do is just read through our mission, which is to be a spiritual community for our time, theologically diverse, radically inclusive, justice-centered. And boy, haven't we had a whole service about who we are and who we need to be. So, the next thing we need to do is establish a quorum for the meeting. So I am going to turn this over to my capable assistant here, Kim St. Clair, to give you some instructions for what we need to do in terms of getting everyone online able to be counted.
Good morning. I've already put in the chat box instructions for renaming yourself. So if you are a voting UUCP member, please rename yourself member in all capital letters, and then your name, and then any household members who are also voting members. So for example, if you look at mine, it says member, and then it says Kimberly, comma, Mitchell, comma, Tommy, because those are my children. Now we're not going to count them in the quorum because they're not actually here, but I just wanted to do that as an example. So anybody who's in your household who's present who will be voting, please put their names in that member renaming of yourself. Did I make that clear? Yes. Okay, thank you.
That sounds great. So while that is going on, we need to have 50 members to constitute a quorum. And so we're going to have everyone who's a member here in the room, please raise your hand. And Shelley Stevenson and her family, Chloe and Leo, will be counting. Okay. Kim, what have you got? Well, we have a quorum, but let's see how many we actually have voting.
Looks like we have 20 online.
Okay, so we have 71, so that's more than a quorum. And it's a quorum plus. So, thank you very much. Now that we have done that, I'm just going to do a quick run through of the agenda so you'll know what we're running through today. We've done our quorum. We're going to talk about our tech process and our guidelines in a minute for how we vote and what we're going to be doing. Then we'll have our opening words. And we opted to leave our chalice lit since we're all part of the same rollout of the activities here this morning. We're going to introduce the board. We're going to approve our last year's 2022 annual meetings, have a board report, hear from Reverend Christina on the state of the congregation, vote on a bylaws change, then we'll talk about the financial and a budget review, and then we'll vote on the budget. Then we're going to talk about a Close the Gap campaign that we're going to have, and then we'll be electing our leaders for the upcoming year and doing the installation for that. And then we'll adjourn this meeting, but please stay put because we'll immediately follow that with the UUFP meeting, the foundation meeting, of which you are all a part because you are all UUCP members, and we are the ones we are waiting for the foundation also. So anyway, I just go off script for a moment, but I just need to say that this is so close to my heart to know that, and particularly following up on the service that we had today, what we are doing here today is supporting our democracy. We are supporting our system, and we are also the ones that we are waiting for. There's no one else who is us and makes up this community besides us. So we are here together. We're here to support each other, and doing the business of the congregation is doing the larger business as well. So thank you all for being here. Okay. For the, did I miss one there? Sorry. Okay, so for the technology process, for those of you who are on Zoom, keep yourself on mute, and all questions and votes will be done via chat. If you just put them in the chat, Kim has a microphone. I'll be keeping my eye on her also, and if she's got something, she can interrupt me also. You have my permission. Just jump on in there, Kim. And she will be looking for that. When we do votes, there will be a little lag in time because we want to honor those who are doing this on the online process. And so we will wait for those votes to come in, and then we will take the aggregate count of everyone together for that. Zooms, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Your question will be read aloud by Kim, and if you're in person and you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll recognize you from up here. We're going to be doing the votes by voice and by chat, and if there's any question along the way, then we will get more about counting if we need to. So our guidelines for discussion, should we have any, and we have an open mic up front where you'll be invited to come up and discuss if you would like, is we will be we will be courteous and listen openly. For each vote, there will be 15 minutes of discussion after the, up to, yes. Thank you, Susan. Up to that. If we don't have any discussion, we won't be waiting. If we need more time after that time, then we can vote on whether to extend it or not. If you're in the room, you can use the mic so the Zoom folks can hear you. We're going to limit our comments to 45 seconds and ask that no one speak twice until everyone's had a chance to be heard. The Zoom folks can comment in the chat, and if you want something to be said out loud, if you've commented in the chat, please indicate that so Kim knows to repeat it. And all motions today are being presented by committee. What that means is that it's not necessary to have a second because it's come from a group of people. The voting processes, the motion, discussion, and votes will occur by voice and chat, and according to our bylaws, all the votes today need to have a majority. So at least 50% of the quorum plus one will constitute the majority of votes. Okay, now we got that out of the way. Reverend Christine, would you like to come up and do our opening words?
Our opening words this morning are from the Reverend Heather Januels. From the power of our memory and history, with high hopes for the days that lie ahead, we gather to craft the destiny we share with one another. We gather with faith in the practice of democracy. We gather with hearts and minds open to the wisdom of every voice among us. In our gathering, may we dream and design a bold future. May we bring our best selves to this community. And may we dream these dreams and do this work with love. So might it be.
I would like to introduce our current board of trustees. It has been an honor to work with them and serve with them this year. They're a wonderful, thoughtful group of people. We've had some great discussions. We've made some good decisions. And one more click, Danny. There. Better? Okay. So I am the president. Shelley Stevenson is my vice president. Amy McClendon is our secretary. Carol Ackerson is our treasurer. Johnny Lifshitz is a past president and trustee at large. Ed Cernak, a trustee at large. Dan Coleman, a trustee at large. And our two youth representatives are Gabby Amadei and Sarah Iyer. And we've just been honored to have everyone together and working together. We had all our meetings on Zoom except for one in person, and it was wonderful to have that opportunity. And of course, Reverend Christine Dance is our ex officio member. Okay, now we're going to do a thing. We call our voting things. So the meetings from the 2022 minutes were advertised in our annual meeting packet that we asked you all to review ahead of this meeting. So they've been out for several weeks, and hopefully you all took a look at them. So the motion from the board is to approve the June 12th, 2022 annual meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing no discussion, we'll go right to the vote. How many are in favor? If so, please raise your hand. You can put your hands down in the room. And Kim?
They're coming in. Looks like we have all ayes at the moment.
Okay. Any nays? Any disapproving?
Not in the chat.
Okay. Any abstentions? All right. The minutes are passed. Yay! Yay! We did a thing. Okay. Now we have a report. So the board report, here are some of our accomplishments in this past year. We navigated the third year of the pandemic, continued with reopening, readjusting, and problem solving. We're pleased to be the first board of UUCP with an all-female exec team. You may remember this, even though it seems like a lifetime ago. We installed our beloved minister, Reverend Christine Dance, after a long 3-year wait, combined with our 75th anniversary of UUCP. We also installed our community minister, Patrice Curtis, and we invited Reverend Christine's first ministerial intern, Brigitte Vieira, to join the staff at UUCP. We provided leadership for discussions around children in the sanctuary, Share the Plate reorganization, and the UUA Article 2 revisions. We held an additional meeting of the board to delve deeply into the Article 2 revisions and voted to support the UUA in this revision to be voted on at GA General Assembly this June. I'm going to take a quick veer off at this point to say that we could still use 3 delegates for GA. You do not have to be going. You can do this online, and if you want to do a business-only delegate, be a business-only where you will attend those meetings and do the voting of the congregation and represent us, there's no charge for that either. So if you have an interest in following along and supporting this, please let us know. I would say, let's see, send in a note to the board and just board@phoenixuu.org, and we will be happy to get you on that list. We held ongoing masking policies, conversations about masking policies, and then we moved to mask optional in late January of 2023. Our board meetings, as I said before, were successfully held via Zoom, and with the April meeting being live and online through our OWL technology. We finalized a sabbatical policy and work anniversaries policy. We updated our board policy manual, and we created a board policy to decide on requests for congregational support to be able to treat requests with consistency. We've overseen the budget process and made a decision to try to achieve a $625,000 stewardship goal, which would restore most of the budget items back to full capacity that it takes to actually run this congregation. We introduced stewardship at the mid-year meeting and supported the stewardship campaign in March, made follow-up calls in April, and after intensive scrutiny, asked staff to reduce the budget and decided on a close the campaign ask for this annual meeting. Plus an ask for the UU Foundation for a grant to fill the gap as needed to give UUCP the capacity for a full year budget in 23 and 24 to attempt to grow the congregation and determine our capacity for future activity. More on these topics over the rest of this meeting. We requested and received a report on Realm and possible future database needs. We voted on a new bylaws amendment to be voted on today by all of you, and we participated in 2 new member ceremonies. We just did a few things this year. We didn't do very much. We've had excellent involvement and participation by all the members of the board in deep discussions about the topics of our needs. This board's been a pleasure to work with, and I really appreciate all their thoughtful participation. And it's exciting when you consider the future of UUCP, and we hope to see more of your faces involved in our board work in the future. We are also saddened by the imminent departure of Shelley Stevenson and her Keith Brown and their family, Leo and Chloe, and we wish them the very best of success and happiness in their new positions in Helsinki, Finland. Do drop in on us in Zoom from time to time. Thank you for all of you who support us in our work of the congregation. We hope more of you will consider the board as a future leadership act of service. It's really an honor to serve. It's been quite a year.
And I will say many, many times, Bunny's leadership has been astonishing, wonderful, heartfelt, collaborative, and so meaningful. You've done great, great work, Bunny. Congratulations. Thank you. So I'm here to give the state of the congregation. You've already heard some of it. You're tired of hearing me talk. I'll try not to make it too long. It has been quite a year. I often say to my colleagues that this has been the tale of 2 congregations. We're going to hear that financially we're still in the pandemic. We are in the same boat as a lot of other churches and nonprofits. We hope that next year will be the year that it all turns around. So we can hold that to be true, but also this congregation is incredibly vibrant and alive right now. Almost all of the programming we had before the pandemic still exists now, almost 3 years later. And there's plenty of new activities that have arisen as well. We brought back community night on a small scale, and we hope to have it back in full force in the fall. Our children in an age group that was disproportionately affected by the pandemic started slow, and Katie, I was going to check with you with numbers. I've got something. We started with around 9 kids at the beginning of the program year. About 9-ish. And a few weeks ago, we had a huge number. Do you remember what it was?
Our biggest week so far has been 44.
44. So, right? So while the rest of the congregation, we've been, shifting, you've seen how many new people have come. That is really notable to go from 9 to 44. And that is a combination of both who are here in worship, but also in the children's ministry programming. And then we also have 11 classes of OWL that are going to be happening throughout this year. Yeah. So huge things going on in that. We know that the vibrancy of our programming for our youth is one of the critical markers of our health, and our children's ministry team worked miracles with a lot of obstacles thrown in their way this year. While many organizations are struggling with volunteers, This congregation has been very generous with your volunteer involvement and leadership. Yes, we're always looking for more volunteers, but compared to the stories that I'm hearing, we actually have a lot of new folks stepping into exciting new volunteer roles. Your staff is tired, but also still innovating, optimizing, and responding. I could not be more proud to work with the highest caliber staff that I have ever seen in a congregation, and it is an honor to work with them collaboratively and compassionately. This year was still definitely a coming out of the pandemic. We went from barely just back in-person services to making masking optional to singing. COVID is still part of our lives, and it is affecting more than others, but we are at least looking at next year as being similar to the end of this year. That is not something that we've been able to say for the 4 years that I have been here. So we would like next year to be in the similar place of where we've been as far as operating on a COVID scale. This is the first year we've had children in the sanctuary for the entire service. It brought some complications and some conflict and a lot of conversations about accessibility in our services. And speaking of accessibility, we are still online and we are having an average of somewhere between 30 to 40 people joining us live on Zoom each week and 60 to 100 more watching on YouTube, either live or later. So if you're doing the math, that's 100 to 130 some folks who are watching us online. We don't know how many are on Facebook. There could be more there. We've been able to do it much more reliably and be able to do this because of our wonderful tech team. Thank you for staying around for the congregational meeting. Our sermon series on hope and liberation on world religions seemed to be very well received by you all, with each of these services, interestingly, being our highest attended services each month. That's just one of the ways that I look to see who's interested. You showed up for each of those. You must have liked something that you heard. And the oh, well, thank you. But I'm there all the time. It was fun doing a series. We're going to be doing them next year on the new principles from our UUA, looking at what we're going to be going in depth theologically on those. And with that series, the choir learned a musical piece in a different language for each one, it seemed. The choir was, in its first full year back, was on fire this year, absolutely on fire. And just brought so much life, but not just the choir, all of the music that was offered, just totally the holistic way that the music shapes these services is just amazing here. We revamped our caring ministries at the end of this year to be a more robust team that can help us take care of the many pastoral needs that we've got. And oh, this year had so much pastoral care. We had so many deaths of beloveds, so many people who are hurting, who are lonely, who are struggling. And I just want to say to anyone who is feeling isolated out of the pandemic, you are not alone, and we are here in your community to help you. There's been so much need this year. On a social justice front, our big win was the Good Trouble work. Good Trouble! Woo! Where we were one of the congregations with the highest turnout to affect the election, and we did. Our earth justice work continues. Many people are volunteering at the Maryland School. Many are helping with downtown Phoenix's cooling centers this summer. We marched in the Pride Parade, thanks to our new Pride team. Thank you, Pride team. And we have a new refugee family program working with an amazing Afghani family that we look forward to knowing better. We're very excited about that new ministry. And Brigida, we are hoping will reinvigorate our racial justice collaborative this year. And as we just talked about, she's also going to be working on how to respond to the hatred in the community and what safety looks like. So Brigida's going to be doing an awful lot of work around that. And I will just say, as a point of personal privilege, I love having an intern. And specifically, I love having Brigida. She is already a minister in her own right. And while you may not see all of the things in the background, she's adding so much to my ministry and our work as a staff team. And this is officially her first full-time week, so you will be seeing a lot more of her now. I'd get done with that school thing, whatever. So we're so glad you're here, Brigida. Next year, we're going to have a big push to reinvigorate our small groups, knowing that they are key for connection and support. We have new groups this year for our LGBTQ folks, our young adults, and we hope to have one for single folks in our congregation. If there's other small groups that you wish to build, let us know. Next year, our opportunity is to figure out who we are post-pandemic, whatever that means, but we need to more solidify that. We'll be getting ready to figure out just what our vision is for our community and figure out just how big we are. It is about the quality, not just the quantity, but it is still hard to know exactly what size congregation we are after all of this. And based on that, what kind of programming we can realistically support. We will hopefully have some stability for the whole year. It would be nice to have a simple, stable stability brownie for a year. Wouldn't that be nice? We are preparing for Benji Messer to take a sabbatical from January to July of 2024. This is not our first staff sabbatical. Katie took one and then had the board. We looked at our sabbatical policy and looked that it should be the same for our program religious professionals. Do not worry, it's Benji. We already have a plan. We will be fine. It will be different, but sabbaticals are a wonderful opportunity to miss what we have, to develop capacity for what we also can do, and to look at our programming in new ways. We will be having Brigida through February of 2024, and one of my personal goals is that we have opportunities for joy and fun next year. I am so proud to be your minister amid a congregation that is still a leader of progressive values, both in our denomination and in our city. I am proud to be your minister every time we human together, every time we do hard things together, and when we have fun together. Thank you for the great honor of being in service with you.
Here we go. We're going to do another thing. We're going to vote on the bylaws amendment. It's a very simple one, and so I want to kind of explain it to you. The only change that we're making, it's up there, it's in the red part, is that normally a trustee, when they're voted into the board, runs for a 2-year term. And what has seemed to have happened sometime over the past, I don't know, 6-8 years, somewhere in there, is that people have had to leave the board instead of just fulfilling the other person's vacancy for the time that they did. It was probably close enough to an election where they just elected a new person. And what has ended up happening is that out of the 8 adult members, we have 6 that revolve off at one time, and then only 2 in another year. So what we wanted to do is put this into the bylaws so that it's a permanent thing, so if this should happen in the future, you know, we're prepared for this kind of activity. But what we're going to do, the nominating committee will be looking for in the upcoming year, is to find some of the members that will run for a 1-year term and some that will run for a 2-year term, and that way it will balance off, so that maybe we have 3 or 4 or 4 and 4 that revolve at a time, so there's not suddenly a big gaping vacancy in the board and everybody trying to run around and fulfill it. So that's the point of this. And so the motion is to accept the changes to the UUCP bylaws as noted in the distributive documents and above. And is there any discussion?
Could you read the amendment? It's hard to see for some people who don't have that list.
Okay. So the only change in the amendment, do you want me to read the whole amendment or just the change? So the change in it says the trustees shall serve 1 or 2-year terms except the youth representatives. So that's the change that we're voting on.
What did it say before?
It just said 2-year terms. So it's only adding in the 1-year piece. Joan?
What does it mean there is no limit on the number of terms an individual may serve? Does that mean I have served for 2 years and I don't want to give up, so now I'm going to try for another year?
So that's we're not voting on changing that. That's already in the amendment as that's already in the bylaws as it stands, but I'm going to explain it. So what it is that all of us that serve on the board, the NOMCOM, the UUFP board, we all serve at the discretion of the congregation and of the nominating committee. So the nominating committee determines each year whether they want to renominate someone or whether they want to nominate new people. So it's not just, there's no one on the board that says, I'm staying. We have to say, well, I'm willing to stay if they're asking us if we're willing to stay. And, but it's definitely up to the NOMCOM committee to decide what the slate for the following year is going to be. So that allows the power to be in the congregation's hands for voting. Is there any other discussion on the change? Okay. So we need just a verbal vote as opposed to a hand-raising vote. So all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Sorry, go ahead, Kim. Let's give a moment for the Zoomies.
The ayes are coming in. Looks like it stopped, so it's all ayes.
Okay. Any opposed? Please say nay. Anyone there, Kim?
Nope.
Okay, any abstentions? We're good. It's passed. Did another thing. And now I will introduce to you Carol Ackerson, our very treasured treasurer.
Greetings, I'm Carol Ackerson, and my pronouns are she and her, and I have the privilege of serving as the treasurer of our congregation. Part of my duties today, I am here to present a brief overview of our financial activities in 2023 and present the proposed budget for 2024 for your approval. I think we had all hoped that I would start this report indicating that the impact of COVID was over. Unfortunately, like many congregations and nonprofits, the effects of the COVID shutdown are still with us. And although we're beginning to see who we are as we come out of this challenging shutdown times, not all the questions have been answered, and we are not totally clear about what the future looks like. And it is within this context that I present this report. Last year, the congregation approved a budget with a $53,721 deficit and pledges of $550,000. Although we haven't quite finished the year, on May 31, 2023, information indicated that we are not likely to reach the pledge amount budgeted. However, given where we are, it looks like we're going to have a slightly smaller deficit than what we had budgeted. This means we will not close the gap and must use the surplus from the previous year, but we are managing based on our budget. Once again, the staff's ability to effectively manage expenses has been important to keep us within the mid-year projections. The other important item this past year was our ability to hire Brigida Vieira as a ministerial intern. You're getting a lot of coverage today, Brigida. We're glad to have you. We can do this because of a very generous gift from one of our members who was committed to covering the cost. A few other generous donors have supplemented the fund. And we know that many of you would like to support having an intern and being a learning congregation. So if you would like to make a gift towards this important fund, please let Reverend Christine or I know. Any gift made to this fund will move an equal amount from the original gift to this year's operating fund. So any gift to the intern fund helps support next year's operating budget as well. Although we did not reach the pledge goal, we are not seeing a decline in the pledges compared to previous years, and many of you have been more than generous in your financial support to help us through these challenging times. We are using the definition, stewardship is the act of protecting and being responsible for something worth caring for and preserving. A huge thanks to those of you who have taken the responsibility to care for and preserve UUCP. For the 2023-24 budget, we projected that to move forward, we would need to use a pledge received goal of $625,000, and staff prepared a break-even budget based on this assumption. As we prepared to present the budget, we had received approximately $530,000 in pledges, which would have created almost a $100,000 deficit that we are not able to cover from previous surpluses. So the Board of Trustees developed a three-pronged strategy. The first is we went back to the staff and we asked them to cut $30,000 from the budget, which they did. And the budget we are proposing today is based on those adjusted expenses with a pledge goal of $595,000. Second, we plan to come to you, the members of the congregation, to ask for an additional $36,000 in pledges. Bunny will be following my presentations with the detail of that request. Third, we went to the foundation, which continues to ask the hard questions but remains a great partner. They agreed to provide up to $70,000. We cannot rely on additional funds over and above their annual pledge every year, but their continued support can help us during these challenging recovery times. Closing this gap is important not only for this year's budget, but for our future budgets. We must be able to have an annual operating budget that is not dependent on the foundation, but is a budget we can support through our pledges, our gifts, our fundraising, and other regular operating funds. We present this budget and hope to use only a small portion of the foundation commitment, but it does allow us to present this budget to you. This budget, again, continues in general to maintain where we've been. There have been a few things I want to point out. We could not provide a cost of living increase for the staff this year, but this budget does include a 3% cost of living increase for next year. We have had staff become eligible for retirement, and 2 hours a week has been added to the children's ministry assistant position. There also are some funds for a part-time accompaniment support. And as mentioned, starting in January, Benji will be on sabbatical through July, and this budget provides part-time clerical director support and some additional funds for guest musicians. Choir. I'm sorry, choir director. Other items have had minor adjustments up and down just based on our past experience or on what we know the required payment to be. Again, we recognize this budget is not yet where we want to be, but we believe that the Foundation's commitment that this is a conservative and reasonable approach for the coming year. As in previous years, staff, Finance Committee, and the Board of Trustees will monitor the congregation's financial position and will adjust and recast the budget in January as operations become more certain. Therefore, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I move that you approve the 2023-24 budget as presented.
Sounds good. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor, and do we have some discussion about that? Does anyone have any questions? Come on up here.
Start the 45 seconds. Pierre Theriault, congregant, former president of the foundation and future contributor to Share the Plate. It's more of a general reflection. 30 seconds to go. I'm a failed congregant, I think, and I need help from you. Coming out of COVID isn't just about the congregation, but as I come out of COVID as a congregant, I'm having a little trouble staying up with what's going on. And I wonder if that's because of excessive reliance on email communication, and if there are any alternatives. I don't know if I'm a minority of one who wants to be more connected, but struggling a bit, if you're following me, and I think my time's up. And I think it relates to the budget as well.
Thank you, Pierre. Smoot?
One question on it. The 595 includes the 36,000 follow-up campaign? The 599 pledge income on the slide.
Includes the 36,000 ask.
Yes.
Okay, that question. The other thing I'll say, and this relates to the budget, I agree with Carol about this budget right now is not sustainable over the long term with foundation support. What I would suggest to the board is that I don't think we're going to come out of this in a single year. What I would suggest the board look at a 2-year horizon about where we can get to a balanced budget rather than just a 1-year horizon. And then also have metrics along the way to see how we're approaching that goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Smoot. Anyone else? Kim, anyone online have any questions?
No.
Okay. Donna?
Hi, I'm Donna Featherston. I just want to express my thanks to the donor who made our ministerial internship possible. I want to commit to this group that I will give a gift toward that process. And I would encourage us to look introspectively, because when we installed Reverend Christine, there was a call to us to become a teaching congregation, and I'm pleased that we're meeting that. I'm glad that somebody stepped up to provide those funds, but that is not the ideal way of covering that cost. We are the ideal way of covering that. And so I just would like to put that out there to us.
Yeah. Thank you, Donna. McCall?
This is more of a not understanding thing, and maybe you all understand more than I do, but what's covered in the marketing costs? Because the banners out there, is that covered in the marketing costs? If they keep on getting torn down, they're going to cost a lot more than $350 is what you all budgeted for that stuff, and I was wondering what marketing costs are.
So the marketing costs cover pamphlets out front, they cover things that we might have for newcomers, they do cover the banners, and if those keep getting taken down, we will find it from other places and make sure we keep replacing it. So that is expected marketing costs, but if we have more, then that's where we readjust, and I will buy as many damn banners as we have to. I'll just add that we had a generous donor when it got taken down the last time that said, how much does a banner cost? Let me pay for that too. That's always a way that somebody can come up and contribute to that. So thank you to that generous donor.
Thank you. Katie?
I'm Katie Resendez. I'm the Director of Children's Ministry. I'm also a member, and I'm also a parent of members and a parent of non-member children. A reminder that things are nice, but communities run on people. A reminder that while this budget is us healing, we need to continue to healing and truly, truly invest in it. And remember that we have staff members who have committed their lives to this program. Many of them, or 2 of them in my program, work less than 14 hours a week and are paid for less than 14 hours a week. We continue to expect them to learn and grow and deepen their skills and to address our needs. They do not have housing stipends. They do not have transportation stipends. They do not have study leave. They do not have a lot of the benefits that the rest of the staff does. And while I deeply, deeply appreciate Brigitta's presence here and the gifts that have been given to hold her here, those who have committed long-term to us need our support, period. Please, it's not just children's ministry staff, but for me, it is. My staff is amazing. And I need to lift up that Rose does phenomenal work. She's known all over UUlandia. She is renowned for her work on reviewing. She reviews curriculum for sensory needs and for disability needs, and then she comes back here and she's lucky to get paid for 10 hours a week. That's not okay. We gotta fix that. We gotta heal, and we gotta remember what we value, because we value each other, and people are better than things. Love you.
Thank you, Katie. John?
Hi, I'm John Palumbo, member. My pronouns are he, him, and Katie set me up well with what I wanted to say. When I looked at the change from the original proposed budget to the budget now, the $30,000 in savings seems to, actually more than $30,000 in savings, seems to come from personnel fees. So our personnel that are the lifeblood of this community love their job so much and love this community so much that they were willing to take a pay cut to make this budget work. So I feel it's important that we stand up to the ideals of a living wage for everyone, and we focus on increasing the pay to our personnel because they are the lifeblood of us, and we have to stand for our ideals of a living wage for everyone. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Kim, anybody else in the meantime?
No.
Okay. All right, so we'll move forward with voting on the budget. The motion by the board was to approve the 23-24 budget as advertised. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Please say nay. Kim, we'll wait for the ones to come through Zoom.
Still rolling in.
Okay. Sorry, I bunched those two together.
It's all ayes at the moment. We'll give a chance to see if there's any nays. Otherwise known as yes or no. Looks
Okay.
like
Okay, well, we have passed the budget. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. We have such talented members of our congregation, and we thank so many of them for gracing us all with their talents in the different areas where they volunteer and support us and support this community in holding our values together. So one of the pieces of our board's three-pronged approach was to come back again. We call it for a Close the Gap campaign. And this is our fourth pandemic year, and so it's been really hard, as you've heard from Reverend Christine and from Carol, to really have an idea of, who are we in terms of how many are we, and who are we being, and what are we being. And I think that Reverend Christine's service today really spoke to the fact of who we are and who we want to be and what our values are. And I think that's where this piece comes out of, is that we on the board really feel that this was not the year to say, okay, we've only got this much money in pledges, we need to live into only that much money. We felt it was so important to be able to say, this year, this coming year is our year for growth. And look at all the opportunities that we're going to have in an opportunity to grow. Some of them are ones that we didn't ask for, such as, the attacks that are happening on us and the hate that we're having to deal with. But this gives us an opportunity, as Reverend Christine mentioned in the service, and as Brigitte is working on, to really get out into our community and to invite people into our community and really have activities happening here and joining other activities where we as UUCP get to be seen as a community. Because, for gosh sakes, in a metro area as large as Metro Phoenix, there have got to be more people that relate to our values and would like to join us, that we would like to have here to support these values. And we really think it's possible, and we think this is the year to do it. Also, we've got the elections coming up, and we're going to be running up into that. We've got opportunities. The UUA has done some wonderful programming with the Side with Love and with the UU the Vote to be able to support us, to really look forward to give us the tools that we need to have more people involved. It's not just us doing our little thing ourselves, which we did quite a big thing with the Good Trouble congregation, but to do even more. So we think that if you really look at it, like, this is our year. This is our year coming up. And we are the ones that we need to believe in. And so we are the ones to show up for us, because we are who we are. And so this is our time to really step into this time of growth. And we figure that when we get through to stewardship next year, if we have seen that we've had all these opportunities and the community, for whatever reason, has not made any changes in the growth, then, and Smoot very value that maybe it needs to be a 2-year kind of process, but we'll figure that out along the way. But we got to make some decisions then. And so what we've done is decided that one of the things we're going to go back to is to all of you, and to do this what we call this Close the Gap campaign. So what this is, I'm going to switch gears a second here. So the board believes that together we can do this. We are the ones. We are here for us. And so what we're looking at, right now we have 203 pledging units. We know from the numbers that Reverend Christine was quoting to us that we have more than 200 people that are around here and that are watching us. We have 100 and some that are watching us every week on Zoom. And we have you folks in the room. We have all of you who are here and voting in both places. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about $15 a month. We want you to think about $15 a month equals $3.75 a week, which equals 50 cents a day. If we had 200 pledging units giving at $15 a month by 12 months, that would make $180 in a year time. If we've got 200 of us, which we have 200 of us, if we could all move together, we could raise $36,000 right now in the next 2 weeks. So I'm doing an ask right now. If $15 a month is too much for you, can you give 5? Can you do 10? If $15 a month seems like a reasonable amount to you, could you do 20? Could you do 25? The idea is this is a number that we think that we can all relate to, and if we do this lift together, we can lift us up. We can meet half of what we need to get to fill the deficit for this coming year. And that means we'll only need to ask the foundation for an additional $34,000 if we get to our 36. So, and the idea is that the more money we leave in the foundation's coffers, the more money their 5% every year rolls through to us, the more money that money can earn there. So it's kind of like with the different asks. We're looking at what can we do, what can we all join together and do to support ourselves. Because in supporting ourselves, it's just like Katie and John pointed out, we are supporting our staff. This is our largest two places where our money goes to is our building and our staff. And the most important place that it belongs is with our staff. They are the ones who are making this place work for all of us. So that's the ask. Now what we're going to do, because like who loves Realm? Sorry, personal comment. Is you can't go in, if you've already given, if you haven't given at all this year, please go into Realm if you can do that, or else just do what everybody else is I'm going to ask everyone else to do, and make a pledge, or increase your pledge. If you are increasing your pledge, if you already have a pledge and you're going to increase it, you can't go back into the system and make that change. So we're asking everyone to send an email to closethegap@phoenixuu.org, and to do this within the next 2 weeks. And to put in the email, obviously, who you are and how much you would like to give, and whether you want a one-time lump sum or whether you want a monthly charge or a weekly, however you want it to do. And our magic elf, Gary Azell, who we are eternally grateful to, will make all the records go through there. Now, if I'm going to mention this technicality, if that will all show up in our pledge campaign, we'll be able to keep track of the numbers in terms of reporting back to you, hey, 50 people have done this, 100 people have done this, 150 people have done this, 250 people have done this. Wouldn't that be great? So we will report back to you how we are doing and where we are going, but in the meantime, if Realm doesn't pull for you for your arrangement and you need to make your change at your bank, please be sure and do that step yourself too. So I think that we are there. So do you think we can do this? What do you think? Yes. Are you with me? Yes. Are you with the board? Yes. Yeah, okay. Yes, we are the ones we have been waiting for. So let's do this thing. All right, now, Uli, would you like to come up and run elections? because I will actually run the vote.
All right. Hello, my name is Uli Böcker. My pronouns are she and her. The people on the nominating committee for this year were Sydney Harrison, Melissa Schwartz, Leslie Stalkup, Sunshine Watson, and Francis Wiggett. And I would like to thank my fellow NomCom members for the work that we have done together. It was a true pleasure for me to be on this committee, and only in the second year did I really notice how much of an honor and how much work it is. So thank you for this opportunity. I would like to thank the nominating committee, especially for the extra work we needed to put in the last few weeks because of some changes that are happening. And I would like to thank all the people who are on the slates for the different positions of leadership in the congregation, because they also were willing to make last-minute changes, think about how much commitment they wanted to put into this church, and changed their positions. Thank you also very much for doing this, coming out of COVID, where it has been especially difficult to keep this congregation together. Once we started last September, we found how many volunteers there are in this church. And when we were asking around, would you be willing? Would you be willing? How would you feel about? We found all the people who are already engaged in the congregation. So thank you to all of those for all these non-so-called or so-called non-leadership positions where you actually are leading and holding our congregation together. So the process of nominating the new leaders for our congregation is outlined in the nominating committee process. And the nominating committee has the task to identify individuals willing to accept leadership for the coming church year. An independent slate of these nominees is then put together, and it is developed to be voted on today by the congregation. The slate for the different positions was published in consecutive issues of the Compass and on our website beginning the fourth Thursday of April. Although it was originally assumed that there would be no changes after the publications, that did not happen this year. We heard before that Shelley will be leaving. We appreciate very much that you are willing to stay on the board and continue to contribute your valuable time while you're also preparing to move. So thank you very much for that. So with that, it was necessary to change the slate for the board, and two more announcements were made to the congregation via Compass. So there are three slates for the elections. One for the UUCP Board of Trustees, one for the nominating committee, and one for the UU Foundation of Phoenix. Outgoing, let me actually see whether I have that here. The nominees for the Board of Trustees will be Reggie Watson and Carol Ackerson. Continuing members, and they are not to be re-elected, it's just confirming that they will be staying on. Bonnie Hodas as president, Johnny Lifters, and thank you to you for continuing in this job. I know that you have been doing this for a long time, so even more thanks for that. We very much appreciate that. And Shelley Stevenson will act as co-vice presidents. Amy McClendon is going to be secretary again, and Ed Chernick and Dan Coleman will be members at large. Appointed Youth Co representatives will be Gabby Amadei and Sarah Aya. So the nominating committee poses the motion to approve the candidacy, or actually to approve the nominees, Reggie Watson, Carol Ackerson, Gabby Amadei, and Sarah Aya for the Board of Trustees.
Actually, that's also for the elected exec team too. So you are voting for the entire slate as it is shown here in terms of the president, the vice president, the secretary, the treasurer, and then the Carol, who will be acting as treasurer, and Reggie is who you are voting on today. So is there any discussion on that? Kim?
No.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye or yes. Aye. Have we got them rolling in, Kim?
Yes, they are.
Thank you, Zoomies.
Looks like the ayes have it on
Okay.
the chat too.
All right. Any opposed? Say nay. Any abstentions? The ayes have it. We have a slate. Thank you.
Sydney Harrison, Melissa Schwartz, and I will be leaving the nominating committee. And the nominees for the following year are Barbara Cawthorn, Donna Featherston, and Linda Vance. Continuing members, Leslie Stalkop, Sunshine Watson, and Frances Wiggett. The nominating committee poses the motion to approve the slate as was stated.
Oops. Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Good? Okay.
Yes.
Any opposed? Say nay. Any abstentions? All right. We got another one done. Okay, let's see. We did that. We did that. We did that. Okay, Reverend Christine, it's time to install our leaders. No, they're right here. They're on the screen.
On the screen. Anyone who has just been voted on or re-voted on, would you come up, please? So anyone on the nominating committee or on the board, please come forward if you are continuing on or if you are being newly installed. Look at you all. The relationship between the board and our elected leaders and our congregation is a sacred one. As minister, I pledge you all my support to those elected leaders individually, to the board as a leadership body, and to the congregation community. I will work to encourage open and respectful relationships of trust and transparency with you all. Leaders, will you say the following words if you can read them there? If not, you can see them in a bigger screen back there.
By accepting this role, we will work to call forth the gifts and visions of the congregation, its members and friends. We pledge to lead joyfully, creatively, and collaboratively.
Yes. Congregation members, will you pledge your support to our elected leaders? We pledge to support your leadership, trust you with our feedback, and collaborate with you as together we live out our mission of being a spiritual community for our time, theologically diverse, radically inclusive, and justice-centered. Can we please thank all of our leaders?
Yep, wait. Now, I think the last thing we're doing, we're adjourning the meeting. I'm just going to look at the slide above me. Now try and find it. So, we move to adjourn this meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. The ayes have it. So, everybody stay seated. Don't leave. Bonnie White, come on up and lead us through. I'm finding you your place. There we go.
Hi, I'm Bonnie White. She, her are my pronouns. And I have had the privilege of being the president of the foundation for the last 2 years. The board term is for 3 years. I fortunately have had an amazing board to work with. I did not feel qualified to step into the presidency when I started doing this. They have been behind me 100% and have allowed me to grow incredibly in this position. So our current board members are myself, Mike Paddock has been our treasurer, Sarah Carlson has been our secretary, Jay Bastani is a trustee, Marshall Smart a trustee, and Ted Myers as a trustee. And thank you all so much for all the support that you have been giving me. So, as I learn how to work this thing, all those things that we learned about the big fears, yeah, it's all happening right here. Okay, so this is your foundation. The Unitarian Universalist Foundation of Phoenix is an Arizona nonprofit, not-for-profit corporation created in 1974, separate and apart from UUCP. Its sole purpose is to act as a permanent fund for the financial support and stability of UUCP. Through gifts and loans, the foundation assists with projects such as long-range programs, capital improvements, and tough times. All members of UUCP are members of UUFP. We are back in action for 2 years? I think it was 2 years. Nothing was happening that the UUFP normally did. However, the UUFP did the picnic this year. It is a gift they give the congregation of coming together and just having fun. And it was good to be back together again, having fun. The estate planning seminar was held. And I have to say that if a lot of people don't understand the need for estate planning, particularly if you're younger, but if you own anything with a title, if you have anything with a bank account or with an account number on it, or if you have kids, you already have an estate plan. Arizona's taking care of that for you. If you want to decide what happens with your things and your kids, then you might want to put an estate plan together. And I suggest, if you don't already have one, that next year there will be another estate planning seminar. You might want to attend it.
It's on video right now.
That's true. Bunny just reminded me. The one that we just had is on video, so you can certainly go online and see that there. We also did the Chalice Keepers reception, and that is our way to honor those who have already signed a letter of intent. And a letter of intent indicates that you have put the Unitarian Universalist congregation in your estate plan, in your legacy giving. And it doesn't matter whether you have given in your legacy $100, $50, or a large percentage of your estate. All gifts are appreciated and go towards the future stability of this congregation. The congregation commits to transferring 5% of the value of the portfolio to the congregation every year. This past year, the amount was $50,613. I spoke earlier about the only job of the foundation is to support UUCP. This year, we feel that we are still coming out of the pandemic. And when the congregation the board came to the foundation and said, we're going to need additional funds. The foundation thought about it. We considered it very seriously, because this isn't something that would be sustainable. The foundation can't be giving $70,000 every year to the congregation and have a foundation to rely on. But in order to lean into an opportunity to grow, we felt that it was vital to step up and be willing to say, yes, if you need it, that money is there and committed for that purpose. Because drawing back at a time when you need to lean forward isn't going to get the job done. So sometime between now and the final, probably in the third or fourth quarter, the congregation will have the opportunity to come and say, yeah, we're going to need some. Maybe with Bunny's ask, we won't have to do the whole $70,000. The more we put out there now, the less that 5% is going to be next year or the year after. The foundation gives UUCP the financial stability to be able to have the option to lean in to these tough times. That's what the foundation is, and a lot of congregations out there have not had the benefit of that backing. You can become a member of the Chalice Keepers today. We do have letters of intent back on the table in the back. You can take it with you, take it home, talk it over with your loved ones. But this is where the money for the foundation comes from. We get donations from time to time from people who want to celebrate life-affirming events like weddings, anniversaries, the passing of a loved one. Rather than flowers or other gift items, people have asked that the money be given to the foundation instead, and we welcome those gifts. We are never, ever in competition with UUCP for your giving dollars. We are never in competition for your pledge money. UUCP needs those pledge dollars to sustain the work that we do day in and day out. But the foundation is very grateful to our legacy givers and those who have remembered the foundation in their will or trust and have given the foundation the ability to be responsive to the congregation's current needs. We invite you to add UUCP to your legacy plans to make the foundation a strong financial support for UUCP in the future. Here's a picture of our tough times. The portfolio has lost value this year. No surprise there. If you've been watching the economy at all, you know that the stock market is down, and the majority of all of the funds that UUCP or the UUFP has is invested in a portfolio. It's still strong enough to provide stability to the congregation as we attempt to lean forward. To stay strong, we need the future legacy givers. Last year's annual disbursement was larger than this year's because the stock market is down this year. And we also gave the additional $27,000 last year. So with the additional $70,000 this year, this is going to definitely be lowering the 5% return for next year. So whether it is a small amount or a large amount that you would consider giving to the foundation in your legacy giving, we would consider it as providing stability for the congregation, so as it grows, it will have the continued support going forward. I'm still having trouble with this mouse working here. One of the biggest accomplishments of the board this year was transitioning the portfolio into ESG funds. ESG is the somebody help me here, Environmental, Social and Governance Fund. Yes, thank you. Mike Paddock did a lot of research for us in investigating what it was that our investment advisor was proposing that we invest in. We talked about it, gave it a lot of consideration as a board. It wasn't something that was a decision that we made lightly because there's a lot of discussion about whether or not the ESG funds would perform as well for us as the standard index funds. We felt that it was important to be fiscally responsible as in addition to being able to get into something that would match our values better. We feel that we found the right funds at the right price, and we made the right move. This will continue to be monitored to ensure that we are getting the return we expect, and it feels good to be putting our money where our values are. The Foundation's Articles of Incorporation were first enacted in 1974 with only minor amendments since then. So the board felt that it was necessary to take a look at those Articles of Incorporation and our bylaws. They were out of sync with each other over time. Things have changed, and we needed to get everything kind of back in alignment with what we were actually doing. So we had an attorney for the foundation that reviewed and revised the Articles of Incorporation to conform with current law, to update the terms and to eliminate redundancies. The most significant change is the omission of a provision that allowed non-UUCP members to serve as trustees to the foundation board. The foundation board unanimously approved the proposed changes. We have offered opportunities to members of the congregation to learn about these updates. And the UUF board has made a motion to approve the 2023 amended and restated Articles of Incorporation. And I now ask if there is any discussion. We do have Sarah here, who is a part of our board, who will be happy to answer any questions. Any questions, Kim?
No.
Okay. With that, again, the UUF board has made the motion to approve the 2023 amended and restated Articles of Incorporation. Everyone in favor, say aye. Aye.
Yeah, we have all eyes on
Anybody opposed, say
the
nay.
chat.
Any abstentions? Okay, we have passed the new articles, or the amended and restated Articles of Incorporation. Okay, the foundation has also proposes new bylaws. The bylaws have been revised to remove redundancies, clarify certain provisions and terms, improve organization and accord with the Articles of Incorporation. They describe the current process for the nominating committee to select a slate of candidates and fill vacancies in accordance with the UUCP bylaws, and it organizes the bylaws into a coherent whole that reflects changes to the Articles of Incorporation. Again, we offered members opportunities to have questions and learn about these changes. So the UUF board has made a motion to approve the 2023 amended bylaws. Everyone in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Looks as if it's all eyes in.
Everyone
The chat as
opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Okay, we have passed the bylaws. Thank you. Yay. You do get stuff done up here, don't you? Those continuing on our board are Sarah Carlson, Mike Paddock, Ted Myers, Marshall Smart, Reverend Christine as our ex officio, and Bunny Hodis as the president of the board. Nominees are Smoot Carl Mitchell and Chris Fallon. So we have a motion by the nominating committee to approve the 2023-2024 UUF Foundation of Phoenix Board of Trustees slate of nominees. Is there discussion? And everyone in favor of approving this slate of nominees, say aye. Aye.
Looks like we're good in the chat.
Everyone opposed, say no. Any abstentions? And we have a new board for the Unitarian Universalist Foundation of Phoenix.
Shall I install you?
Yeah. Well, first, I'd just like to say quickly, Jay Vastani and myself are transitioning off the board, and it has been an honor to serve you very much. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, Bonnie, so much for your leadership. You were more than ready to handle this. You were. Can all of the members of the foundation, just elected and continuing, please come forward? And I hope you all are seeing in these budget discussions how important this cooperation is between the congregation and the foundation. And I have to say, it's no small act to update your articles of incorporation and bylaws and do all of that in 1 year. That's a big deal. UU Foundation members, the relationship between the UUFP board, elected leaders, and congregation is a sacred one. As your minister, I pledge my support to these elected leaders individually, to the board as a leadership body, and to the congregational community. I will work to encourage open and respectful relationships of trust and transparency with you. How say you? You can do, this one's larger behind you if you want. Yes, yes.
By accepting this role, we will work to call forward the gifts and vision of the congregation, its members and friends. We pledge to lead joyfully, creatively, and collaboratively.
Congregation members, will you please say the following? We pledge to support your leadership, trust you with our feedback, and collaborate with you as together we live out our mission of being a spiritual community for our time, theologically diverse, radically inclusive, and justice-centered. Okay, we did a thing. Congratulations, leaders.
Thank you, everyone, and I have a motion to adjourn the UUFP annual meeting. Aye. Everyone in favor say aye. Aye. Everyone opposed?
We don't have anybody opposed in the chat.
Okay, the meeting is adjourned.